Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into a pretty big story today coming out of China. It's all about how they're using AI artificial intelligence
Yeah.
to completely transform their transportation systems.
Yeah, we've got a whole report here absolutely crammed with details. And,
Yeah,
well, our mission, I guess, is to sort through all that and bring you the most interesting stuff, the things that really matter.
exactly. I mean, just to set the scene a little, China's transportation network is huge, right?
Yeah.
It's like the backbone of their entire economy.
Absolutely.
So making it more efficient, making it safer, and, with all the climate concerns these days, making it sustainable, those aren't just nice to haves, those are absolute necessities.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where this whole concept of intelligent transportation comes in. AI is like the engine driving this whole evolution.
Okay, so it's not just about having a few cool gadgets here and there.
Right.
It's about a complete systemic change. And the report really lays it out. AI is being used everywhere. We're talking about self-driving vehicles, everything from robotaxis to buses to trucks. There are sophisticated systems that can manage traffic in real time. Public transport is getting a complete overhaul. The way we move goods around is becoming smarter. Even the infrastructure itself is getting a dose of intelligence.
And what's really interesting is the level of government involvement. It's not just tech companies messing around with new toys. There's a real national push, a vision for this future where transportation is safer, more efficient, accessible to everyone, and environmentally sound. They see AI as the key to getting there.
Right, and I think that's a really important point. But, like with any big change, there are going to be complications along the way.
Of course.
So we'll be taking a look at some of the practical challenges and also some of the ethical questions that come up as we move towards this intelligent transportation future.
Sounds good.
Okay, so where do we even begin? I guess everyone's heard about self-driving cars by now. That seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, definitely. The report actually highlights some really impressive progress, particularly in this place called the Yizhuang Autonomous Driving Demonstration Zone in Beijing. It's not just about ride-hailing, though. What's really interesting is the range of applications they're testing.
Oh, like what?
Well, they've got self-driving vehicles, handling deliveries, doing street cleaning, even security patrols. It really shows you just how versatile this technology is.
Wow, so it's like a sneak peek into a future city?
Exactly.
And it's not just limited to this one zone, right? I mean, we're seeing pilot programs popping up all over the place in Guangzhou, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen.
You got it.
Companies like WeRide are already running trials with passengers in their driverless cars.
Yeah.
What really jumps out at you about these early robotaxi rollouts?
Well, one thing that's really striking is this trend towards shared self-driving car services. The report suggests it's something that younger generations are really into. They're less interested in owning a car and more into shared mobility. This could have a huge impact on how our cities are designed in the future. Imagine, needing way fewer parking garages.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And the report goes even deeper, gives you a sense of what it's actually like on the ground. Apparently in Wuhan, these autonomous taxis are becoming pretty common.
Really?
Yeah, and they could even be cheaper than regular taxis. Plus, they've got all these extra safety features built in.
Interesting.
But it's not all smooth sailing, is it? There are definitely some tensions emerging.
How so?
Well, some residents love it, especially people who have trouble getting around.
Huh.
But of course, regular taxi drivers are worried about their jobs.
Right, that makes sense. It's like this double-edged sword with new technology. On one hand, you have these incredible potential benefits, but on the other, there's the real fear of people losing their livelihoods.
Absolutely. And the report also goes into Beijing's approach, which is interesting. They're focusing heavily on the infrastructure side of things. So they're putting cameras and sensors at intersections, creating this smart environment that works in tandem with all the self-driving vehicles. They're testing close to 900 of them in that Yizhuang zone alone. The idea is to make these driverless systems safer and more reliable by giving them this kind of broader awareness of everything going on around them.
Right, so it's like building a smarter road network specifically for these smart cars.
Exactly. But even with all this progress, the report also brings us back down to earth a bit. If you were to try and hail a robotaxi today, you might be waiting a while and you might have to walk to a specific pickup spot, which might not be that convenient. It's a good reminder that we're still in the early days of this technology really hitting the mainstream.
For sure, the average person on the street still needs to see that convenience factor before they'll fully embrace it.
Totally. And it's not just cars either, right? We're seeing autonomous buses being tested as well. Robobuses, I think they're calling them.
Yeah, the robobuses. The trials happening in places like Deakin County and Hizhou City are particularly interesting because they're looking at how to make public transport more efficient and affordable.
Yeah, I think public transport is definitely ripe for disruption, and those driverless buses could be a game changer, especially in certain areas.
For sure.
Okay, so let's move on to something else that's pretty exciting, autonomous trucks.
Okay.
The report really highlights their potential in the logistics and freight industries. I mean, you've got companies like Suning and JD.com already testing these unmanned trucks for both long distance and city deliveries.
Yeah.
The potential here is just massive, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. If you can take the human driver out of the equation, you can have these trucks running around the clock.
Right.
You could significantly reduce fuel consumption, you're saving a ton on labor costs, and there's going to be way fewer accidents caused by human error. It's all about making the supply chain smoother, faster, and more reliable.
And then you've got Pony.ai. They just hit a huge milestone. They're the first company in China to get the green light for what they're calling robotruck platooning on those major highways connecting Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. It's this really interesting concept where you have a line of trucks, a convoy basically, and only the lead truck has a human safety operator.
Wow.
The rest just follow along autonomously. It seems like a major step towards making this technology commercially viable, and the potential for bringing down logistics costs is huge.
Yeah, that's a real game changer. It's not just one truck operating on its own anymore. It's this whole coordinated system working together.
And the innovation doesn't stop there. The Yizhuang Zone in Beijing, which we talked about before, they've also got those autonomous street sweepers and security patrols up and running.
So they're really going all in on automation.
It's like the entire city is getting this AI makeover. And WeRide, with their robo-van for deliveries and their robo-sweeper, they're painting a pretty clear picture of a future where many of these essential city functions are handled by robots.
I mean, stepping back for a second, the sheer scale of this is amazing, right? So many different types of autonomous vehicles, so many cities involved.
Yeah, it really shows you how committed they are at a national level and just how much innovation is happening. It's a really comprehensive approach. They're tackling all these different aspects of transportation and city management at the same time.
Okay, so we've talked about vehicles moving around without drivers, but what about making the traffic flow itself smarter?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting, especially for people who have to deal with traffic every day. The report talks about this concept of the urban brain. Basically, it's like this giant AI system for the whole city. It gathers data from everywhere, traffic cameras, sensors, everything, and uses that data to make real-time adjustments to traffic signals.
So it's like a citywide traffic conductor. Exactly. And what's really cool is that these systems are proactive. Take Zhejiang province, for example. They've got an AI system that monitors the expressways, and it can send out alerts about accidents, but it can even tell you the exact lane where the accident happened. That can make a huge difference for emergency response times.
Yeah, that's incredible. The level of detail they're getting with these systems is amazing. And Huawei, they've developed this Traffico solution that's been tested in Shenzhen and Beijing. It's all about coordinating how vehicles move through multiple intersections, and it's already showing some really promising results.
Like what?
Well, they're seeing reductions in traffic delays.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, right? Making those daily commutes a little bit less painful, saving people time.
Absolutely. And when you think about it from a city planning perspective, reducing traffic congestion can have a ripple effect. It improves people's quality of life. It can even help the environment.
Right, those are all big wins. And it's not just the megacities either. Even Hong Kong is getting in on the action. They've got their first AI-powered traffic management system up and running in Kwun Tong. It uses cameras to gather data in real time and then adjusts the traffic light timings on the fly.
So they're taking a more dynamic approach.
Exactly. And then at a national level, you've got this whole push towards smart traffic lights. They're using sensors to track speed, traffic patterns, all that stuff, and they can actually learn and adapt in real time. The goal is to make the roads safer and smoother for everyone.
Yeah, and Shenzhen's citywide traffic brain is a great example of just how comprehensive these systems can be. It helps enforce traffic laws, it uses big data analysis to fight crime, and it improves the overall travel experience by making those traffic lights work smarter. It's this really integrated approach to city management.
It really shows you the power of bringing all that data together and making it work for you. And the report even mentioned some really cool, almost futuristic sounding applications. Like, did you know there are map apps now that can suggest sun protection routes? They take into account where the trees are and where the sun is shining, and they'll guide you along a shadier path.
Wow, that's pretty neat. I could definitely use that sometimes.
An AMAP has something called the AI balancer. It's supposed to make ride-hailing services more efficient by, I guess, matching riders with drivers more effectively.
Interesting. Those are the kinds of little touches that can really make a difference in your daily life.
Totally. And the amount of data these systems are processing is mind-boggling. The transportation brain in Chengdu analyzes something like 100 million traffic violation images every single day.
Wow.
And then you've got Sichuan province. They're using AI to keep an eye on the expressways in real time. They can spot accidents as they happen, identify speeding, all sorts of things. It's all about creating this super responsive transportation network.
It's impressive how they're customizing these systems to fit the specific needs of each city. It's not just a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so we've seen how AI is making the roads themselves smarter, but what about public transportation?
Well, intelligent public transport is another area where AI is making huge strides. The report talks about how they're using computer vision to automate security checks at subway stations.
So they're moving away from those manual checks.
Exactly. It's all about creating a smoother experience for passengers. Guangzhou has this really cool smart security system where if you're a registered user, you can just walk right into 3 of their subway stations without even needing a ticket. They use facial recognition on your phone to verify your identity.
Wow, that's pretty slick.
It makes things faster and it could even be more secure. And the Shanghai railway station has a similar system. They use AI face recognition with your ID card to let you in.
So it's all about that efficiency and security combo.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just security. They're using AI to develop better routes and schedules, predict when maintenance is needed, and even pave the way for driverless public transport options. Like, Baidu is already running robotaxis in Wuhan and Chongqing, and they're looking at how to integrate those into the public transport network.
So it's like all the pieces are starting to come together. And of course, there's the whole AI-powered surveillance thing.
Right.
That's definitely a big part of making public transport safer. And let's be honest, who doesn't love getting those real-time updates on their phone about delays and crowding? AI is making that kind of information readily available to everyone.
Yeah, and it can even go further than that. You could imagine AI being used to analyze passenger data and then suggesting the most convenient routes or the best mode of transport based on your needs. It could even give you more accurate fare estimates. It's all about making public transport feel more personalized.
Yeah, like it's actually designed for you.
Exactly. And Tianjin has this really interesting intelligent bus dispatching system. They call it BEADS. It uses data analysis to adjust how often the buses run based on actual passenger demand, and you can get real-time arrival information on your phone.
So they're trying to take the guesswork out of bus travel.
Yeah, and their long-term vision is to have unmanned buses that can even be routed based on individual requests. They're also using AI to forecast how many people will be using public transport at different times.
How do they do that?
Well, they combine sensor data with vision AI to automatically count passengers. This helps them optimize capacity and make sure there are enough buses running, but they're also very aware of privacy concerns.
Of course, that's a big one. So it seems like AI is really touching every part of public transportation, from security to scheduling to real-time information to even the vehicles themselves.
It's all about modernizing the system, making it more efficient, and giving passengers a much better experience.
Okay, so we've seen how AI is being applied, but what about the forces behind this change?
Well, the government is playing a huge role. The report talks about China's national AI strategy. It's this long-term plan that sets the overall direction, including how they're going to adapt regulations and build the infrastructure needed to support this intelligent transformation. And it's not just about transportation, it's across all industries.
So it's like this top-down approach.
Exactly. And the Ministry of Transport is specifically focused on establishing standards for things like low-altitude transport, drones and stuff. They've identified AI as a top priority for 2025.
So they're really looking ahead.
Yeah, they're thinking long-term. They want to see drones being used for both logistics and even passenger transport eventually. This is all part of a bigger plan to make the entire transportation sector smarter and more digital.
And there's this other plan, the Next Generation AI Development Plan, which was launched back in 2017. It set some really ambitious goals, like AI being a major driver of the economy by 2025 and China becoming a global leader in AI innovation by 2030.
Right, they're not messing around. And it's not just talk either. The government itself is using AI in its own operations. The report mentions Guiyang. They've implemented something called a cognitive traffic orchestration platform, and they've actually managed to reduce traffic congestion.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the push for autonomous vehicles has been going on for a while. Back in 2018, the Minister of Industry and Information Technology was already promoting them.
Really?
Yeah, and he predicted they'd have a significant market value by 2020. And cities like Guangzhou have been very vocal about their support for self-driving vehicle development.
So there's been this building momentum.
Definitely. And China has been really proactive on the regulatory side. They were among the first to implement detailed, legally binding regulations on AI applications, including specific rules for autonomous vehicles.
So they're not just letting things develop in a Wild West kind of way.
Exactly. They want to make sure things are done responsibly. And that national AI strategy we talked about, it really emphasizes innovation and large-scale applications, especially in transportation. And they're backing it up with financial incentives and infrastructure investments.
So it's a multi-pronged approach.
Absolutely. And the report also points out that there was a huge increase in the number of smart transportation policies issued between 2020 and 2021. It really shows you how much emphasis they're putting on AI-driven solutions.
So it's like a full-court press.
Exactly. They see AI as the key to creating a more resilient and efficient transportation system, which became even more important during the pandemic.
Right, so the government is setting the stage, but who are the actual players bringing this vision to life?
Well, there are a bunch of major Chinese tech companies leading the charge. WeRide, for example, is a global leader in autonomous driving technology. They've got driverless permits not just in China, but also in the UAE, Singapore, and the US.
Wow, they're really going global.
Yeah, and their portfolio is massive. They've got robotaxis, robobuses, those delivery vans, the street sweepers, you name it.
So they're covering all the bases.
And they're listed on NASDAQ, which shows you their ambitions. They've also got partnerships with companies like Uber in the UAE, and they're running a pilot program in Switzerland. They're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
And then there's Baidu. Everyone knows Baidu. They're best known for their Apollo Go robotaxi service, which is already operating in a bunch of Chinese cities.
Yeah, Wuhan is like their main hub.
And they're talking about expanding overseas, and they've even got a deal with Tesla to provide mapping services in China.
So they're not slowing down.
Not at all. And Pony.ai, they're another big player. They're really pushing the boundaries, especially in autonomous trucking. They were the first to get approval for that robotruck platooning thing on those major highways.
Yeah, that was a huge milestone.
They've also got robotaxis. They're listed on NASDAQ. And they've got partnerships with Toyota and Sinotrans. They're definitely ones to watch.
And we can't forget about Huawei. They're mostly known for telecommunications, but they're also developing some really interesting intelligent transportation solutions. They've got the Urban Brain platform and that Traffigo system we talked about earlier.
They're leveraging their expertise in AI, big data, and 5G.
And they're not just focused on roads. They're involved in rail, aviation, seaports, even coordinating different modes of transport. They're taking a very holistic approach.
So they're really trying to connect everything.
Exactly. And then there's Alibaba. They're involved through their AMAP mapping service and Alibaba Cloud's City Brain and Smart Transportation initiative. They've already had some success in reducing traffic congestion in several cities.
And they're a major player in e-commerce and logistics, so they're well positioned to develop AI solutions for freight and delivery.
Definitely. And on top of all these big companies, there's a whole ecosystem of AI startups in the logistics sector. It's a really dynamic and innovative space.
So there's this real mix of established players and new disruptors.
Exactly. And they're all pushing each other to innovate, and the government is there to support them. It's a really fertile ground for rapid development.
Okay, so we've looked at the drivers of this transformation, but where is it all heading? What kind of impact is AI going to have on transportation in the future?
Well, the experts are predicting a pretty radical shift with big improvements in efficiency, safety, and accessibility. AI is going to be the key driver of this change.
Well, let's start with efficiency.
Yeah.
How is AI going to make transportation more efficient?
Well, for one thing, it can help optimize processes across the board, from production and logistics to autonomous transport of goods. AI can even personalize the consumer experience within the supply chain. It's going to make warehousing and delivery much more efficient.
And what about in our cities?
Well, those systems we talked about earlier, the ones that adjust traffic lights in real time, those are just the beginning. AI can also be used to optimize traffic light sequences, detect incidents as they happen, predict traffic patterns, and even analyze passenger flow in public transport to make sure the schedules are as efficient as possible.
So it's all about making the best use of existing resources.
Exactly. And AMAP's AI Balancer is a good example of how AI can be used to make ride-hailing services more efficient. It basically matches riders with drivers more intelligently. And the ability to process huge amounts of data and make adjustments in real time, that's going to be crucial for creating a more efficient and sustainable transportation system overall.
Okay, so efficiency is one thing, but what about safety? I mean, that's a huge concern, especially when we're talking about driverless vehicles.
Absolutely. And the report makes it clear that safety is a top priority. They're expecting self-driving vehicles and those urban brain systems to play a big role in making transportation safer.
Wow.
Well, think about unmanned trucks. They could operate in hazardous environments, and they wouldn't get tired or distracted like human drivers.
Right, so you're removing the human element.
Exactly. And AI-driven traffic control systems, they can detect speeding, predict dangerous maneuvers, adjust traffic lights to prevent accidents, even send out warnings to drivers.
So it's like having an extra set of eyes on the road.
Yeah, and those AI-powered monitoring systems on the highways, they can detect accidents as they happen and get help there faster. Some studies suggest that autonomous vehicles could reduce traffic accidents by as much as 90%.
Wow, that's a huge reduction.
And there's research being done on using AI to identify vehicles and detect problems with the road surface. All of this contributes to a safer and smoother flow of traffic.
And I remember reading somewhere that the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology predicted back in 2018 that autonomous vehicle technology could cut traffic accidents by 30%.
Yeah, they were already thinking ahead. But it's important to remember that this technology is still evolving, we're still learning, and those occasional accidents remind us that we need to keep testing and improving these systems.
Like a constant process of refinement.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered efficiency and safety. What about accessibility? How is AI going to make transportation more accessible for people?
Well, shared self-driving cars, for example, they could really change things.
How so?
Well, they can make transportation more affordable for people who can't afford to own a car, and they could address the challenges of parking and traffic congestion, and they could be especially helpful for people who have trouble driving themselves.
So it's about making transportation available to everyone.
Exactly. And AI can also improve the user experience in both public and autonomous transport. Think about those real-time updates, personalized route suggestions, more accurate fare estimates. It's all about making transportation more convenient and user-friendly.
And Tianjin's intelligent bus system, with the real-time information and the plans for personalized routing, that's a great example of how AI can make public transport more accessible. And those map apps that suggest sun protection routes, those are the kinds of thoughtful touches that can really make a difference.
Definitely. And the government's push for a smarter and more digitalized transportation industry, that's all about improving service standards and making things more convenient for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about passenger transport, but what about the movement of goods? Logistics is a huge part of the economy.
Absolutely. And AI is going to have a massive impact on logistics and freight transportation. For example, they're using AI algorithms to analyze shipping routes, traffic conditions, weather patterns, all that stuff, to figure out the most efficient delivery routes. This not only saves time and money, but also reduces fuel consumption and emissions.
So it's good for business and good for the environment.
Exactly. And autonomous trucks, they have the potential to really shake things up. Imagine trucks that can drive themselves across the country 24/7 without needing brakes or sleep.
That would be a game changer.
It would. And you're reducing accidents, fuel costs, labor costs, everything. And AI is also being used to manage supply chains, automate warehouses, enhance delivery services, you name it.
So it's like AI is optimizing every step of the process.
Exactly. And the Ministry of Transport, they're really pushing for the use of drones in logistics. They see it as a key part of the future. And AI is already being used for demand forecasting, route optimization, warehouse automation, fraud detection, fleet management, you name it.
So it's a really comprehensive application of AI.
And even customer service is getting an AI boost. Chatbots and virtual assistants are being used to provide 24/7 support, answer questions, and offer personalized solutions.
So it's a really holistic approach.
And companies like Pony.ai, they're making huge strides in autonomous trucking with their robotruck platooning technology. And in Inceptio technology, they've already logged over 200 million kilometers in commercial autonomous truck operations.
Wow, that's impressive. So it's not just a theoretical concept anymore, it's actually happening.
Exactly. And route optimization, that's another area where AI is playing a big role. By analyzing real-time data and taking into account all sorts of constraints, AI can figure out the most efficient routes for trucks, saving time and money and making sure everything is delivered on time. And warehouse management is being transformed by AI as well. They're using AI to optimize inventory, automate processes, do predictive maintenance, even deploy robots to pick and pack orders. It's all about efficiency.
Okay, so we've talked about vehicles and logistics, but what about the infrastructure itself?
Well, that's another area where AI is having a big impact. Experts are predicting that AI will not only accelerate the development of autonomous vehicles, but also the intelligent infrastructure needed to support them.
So it's like a two-pronged approach.
Exactly. And they're stressing the need for better regulations and standards to make sure everything works smoothly and safely. And the goal is to integrate AI into all aspects of transportation infrastructure, from management to safety to efficiency.
So it's like making the infrastructure itself smarter.
Exactly. And they're already doing studies on using AI for predictive maintenance, which could save a lot of time and money and prevent those unexpected breakdowns that can cause so much disruption. And companies like PTV Group, they're working on simulating the behavior of autonomous vehicles and developing AI-powered software to manage traffic in real time. All of this helps us plan and operate our infrastructure more effectively.
And China has already completed the world's first fully unmanned road resurfacing project. They used autonomous construction equipment controlled by satellites and AI.
That's amazing. It shows you what's possible when you combine these technologies.
And AI is being used in railway infrastructure as well. They're doing robotic inspections, predictive maintenance, optimizing train routing and scheduling, all sorts of things. And they're even using AI to inspect bridges, which can be a dangerous and time-consuming job for humans.
So AI is really changing the way we build, maintain, and operate our transportation infrastructure.
Okay, so it all sounds pretty amazing, but I'm sure there are challenges too.
Of course. The report lays out some of the key challenges they're facing. For example, the flow of data between different systems is often fragmented, and the level of AI development and adoption is uneven across different regions.
So it's like a patchwork quilt.
Yeah, and there's a shortage of skilled AI professionals to develop and maintain all these systems. And then there are the practical challenges, the cost of implementing these systems, integrating them with existing infrastructure, dealing with regulations, and ensuring data privacy and security.
Right, those are all big hurdles.
And then there are the social and economic impacts. Driverless vehicles, for example, could put a lot of taxi and truck drivers out of work.
That's a real concern.
It is. And there are broader concerns about job security, the reliability of AI systems, the potential for bias in algorithms, ethical considerations, all sorts of things.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how it affects people.
Exactly. And in the specific context of public transport, there are concerns about privacy, algorithmic bias, and accountability.
So there are a lot of ethical questions to grapple with.
There are. But the report highlights that China is actively working on an AI ethics governance framework. They're setting up ethics committees and developing legal and regulatory systems to ensure responsible AI development.
So they're trying to get ahead of these issues.
They are. And when it comes to transportation specifically, they're focusing on safety, privacy, and fairness in algorithmic decision-making. It's all about putting people first.
And those broader ethical concerns, the ones about privacy, bias, accountability, security, those are all amplified in the context of transportation.
For sure. And data privacy and cybersecurity, those are huge priorities. China is tightening its regulations in those areas, especially for autonomous vehicles and AI applications.
So they're taking data security seriously.
They are. And they're also aware of the potential for job displacement. They're talking about retraining programs and creating new job opportunities in the AI field.
So they're trying to mitigate the negative impacts.
They are. And there are still safety concerns surrounding autonomous vehicles, especially in the public's mind. And there are international concerns about the security of Chinese software used in these vehicles. All of this highlights the need for continued testing, rigorous safety standards, and international cooperation.
So it's a complex landscape with both opportunities and challenges.
Exactly.
Okay, so looking ahead, what do the experts think the future holds for AI in China's transportation sector?
Well, they're predicting a pretty transformative future. They see AI as the key to achieving sustainable growth, optimizing existing systems, and creating better public services in smart cities.
So it's a pretty optimistic outlook.
It is. McKinsey research suggests that AI could add a lot of economic value to China by 2030, and transportation and logistics are expected to be big contributors to that growth.
So AI is seen as a real economic engine.
It is, and most experts agree that AI is going to lead us into a new era of intelligent transportation in China, with self-driving vehicles and smart traffic management becoming the norm.
And the market projections are pretty impressive. The AI and transportation market is expected to be worth a lot of money by 2030.
And industry leaders are predicting widespread adoption of AI across all sectors in China within the next decade. They think China could become a global leader in self-driving technology.
So they're really betting on AI.
They are. And the Ministry of Transport's focus on AI and those low-altitude transport standards, that shows you where their priorities lie. And the World Economic Forum, they've said that AI and machine learning could play a big role in making global freight logistics more sustainable, and they see China as a key player in that effort.
So it's not just about China, it's about the global impact.
Yeah. Exactly. And they're expecting China to lead the way in creating these technology-driven, resilient, and eco-friendly supply chains.
So it's like a vision for the future of global logistics.
It is. And China's autonomous vehicle sector is already booming, thanks in part to all those road testing programs and government support. They're predicting that a lot of Level 4 autonomous vehicles will be operating in mobility services by 2034.
So it's not just a pipe dream, they're actually putting it into practice.
And some of the key trends they're seeing are the rapid adoption of electric vehicles, advancements in autonomous driving and smart infrastructure, and the growing popularity of those mobility-as-a-service platforms.
So it's like a whole ecosystem developing.
It is, and a lot of industry executives believe that fully autonomous vehicles will be operating in major Chinese cities by 2030, and they expect to see mass commercialization soon after that.
So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Exactly.
Okay.
And